Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Simon and we are the Whales of Wall Street. Before we go into today's topic, please do subscribe to the channel if you've not done so already. I can't believe how quick the numbers are going up. Thank you so much for your support, and do like the video if you find it interesting enough for yourselves to do so. So without further ado, let's go into today's topic, and today we're going to talk about staking. So basically, a few people have asked in some comments quite recently about staking. What is it? And I think that's a really good question, because actually a lot of people either don't know at all, they're missing out on the opportunity or the awareness of that, or they are doing it and perhaps don't realize that there may be some implications or some actual opposites to the positive. So let's go into a few top line things. So I don't want to make it massively confusing. So I'm going to do it from like my perspective and just try and keep it as simple as possible so that you guys can hopefully understand and start getting involved in rewarding yourselves by pretty much not really doing anything at all other than staking. So let's go into it. So to talk about staking, I just want to bring to your attention how everything sort of came about in the first place. So Bitcoin is essentially obviously a big cryptocurrency that everyone knows, but the way it started is quite unique. This Satoshi Nakamoto, like, no one really knows who this is. He, she, whatever, it remains to be seen, and not sure why this person it disappeared, or in fact even if they existed in the first place. But the key elements to this, so cryptocurrency was essentially formed using a method called cryptography. Okay, so this is basically like advanced maths to ensure the security and the transaction validity. So when transactions are made into the blockchain, which we will do a video on what blockchains are, hashes, all of this stuff, absolutely get that out next week. But the way that that's all done is how this works. So why this element of staking has occurred is because originally, and still to this day, to validate and create more Bitcoin, or certainly mine the Bitcoin, that is available in the supply mechanism, mining was required. So this is basically kind of like software, if you like, that's used to solve essentially what's like mathematical problems. So the miners are basically people who have like massive computers or big processing power. I mean, you can do it with any singular laptop or anything. You just got probably burn your laptop or whatever, because the processing is quite needy for the energy consumption and everything like this. So it basically solves a problem, and it's what was called proof of work. So you may have seen this terminology around here and there across the board, and that is basically POW. You've probably even seen it in that format as well. So that basically encouraged miners to be able to be rewarded for validating transactions and completing these mathematical equations. Not necessarily them personally, it was all the computers doing all the work. However, the problem is it's essentially kind of like really bad for the environment, and that's why you've perhaps seen a lot of information out there about China locking down mine farms and things like this across the world. And that's why there's a big conversation about at the moment about all these new technologies and blockchains like Ripple, etc., not only making more and more transactions per second, but being extremely environmentally friendly because of staking. So basically, I think it's like 2140. I think all 21 million Bitcoins will be issued or mined. So we've still got a bit of time to mine them and create the infrastructure of Bitcoin. And that's why we're still actually probably, when you see all these like multi-million price points of Bitcoin in the future, that's kind of where it comes from, because ultimately it is finite, whatever, basically means there's a limited supply. So that's why eventually Bitcoin will become a powerhouse in terms of digital gold, essentially. So using GPU power, you're essentially speeding up the process of doing these equations, but it's obviously not great for the environment, and that's how it happens. what has happened also fairly recently, perhaps in the last 5 years or so, is what they call like mining pools and farms. So this is basically communities or groups of people across the world working together to try and mine Bitcoin quicker and a bit more efficiently. However, the proof of work mechanism is still not fantastic, as you've seen in multiple news stories recently. So why staking? So obviously this is kind of like taking it to a next step, but essentially using a hell of a lot less environmental impacts. So why would people use staking? So it's kind of like a consensus mechanism. Okay, so they call it proof of stake, and you may have seen that across the board as well as POS, with like a capital P, a small O, and usually a big S at the end. So this is basically allowed people to remove that whole kind of proof of work aspect and work together and utilize their own investment within the blockchain to validate and process transactions. So basically to confirm that this transaction has occurred using the hashes, etc., and the nodes that then mean that everything's secured and irreversible and very much set in stone kind of thing. So like I said, Bitcoin and Ethereum as well, to be fair, use what's called the proof of work, using a lot of power, but ultimately the proof of stake is a hell of a lot better. So as I mentioned, it's kind of like a new consensus mechanism, and it's a major way that reduces the cost, but also helps churn out the mathematical problems even quicker and easier, less energy intensive. And that's why people are moving to this element. What is in it for you guys? Well, quite frankly, what you're doing is basically providing or essentially lending your assets to the pool that you have chosen, and it is then validated by what they call validators, which we'll go on to in a second, because I'll actually be able to show you one of the elements of how they do that and why they're important. So validators are essentially utilizing their time and their effort to confirm transactions themselves, and essentially if perhaps a transaction is not valid, it will then have to burn those tokens. So when you're talking about supply and demand and you see all this like burning activity and things like that, that's where that conversation comes from. So eventually, if you have got a limited supply of a certain asset and burning occurs, then obviously there's less supply, and demand becomes higher, thus increasing the price. So that's that element. But for you to be lending your assets to the chain, you are then getting rewarded for this as well. So a lot of crypto holders, like myself, for example, have various different strategies for different assets. So for me, some of them I'm happy to not even trade or anything like that and just leave them and just keep accumulating when there's corrections and everything. But in the meantime, I've got a target of, say, the 2024, 2025 years to think, actually, I've got like 2 or 3 years where I don't necessarily want to put my own money in, like physically, like take it out of my bank into exchanges and things to keep safe there. So you can go down the staking route. And that means that you would essentially have potentially passive income depending on how many assets you contribute to the system. So what do I mean by that? Let's go, for example, with Binance here. So you see on my screen, I've got loads of APY opportunities and loads of different opportunities for earning and savings. So flexible savings, which we can go on to in a different video. But in particular, this one, we're talking about staking here. So what's clear here is that there's a specific duration that you have to lend your assets for. Okay, so it's very important that you know this. And why is that important? Because basically, as you've seen recently, we have had fantastic growth patterns in the market. And what you will essentially have here is a 60-day lock-in. For example, you can have 10-day ones, you can have 30-day ones. There's just a multitude of different options here. So I'm just going to go to Harmony One, for example, because that's usually quite a good staking method. Think of your bank, right, with your savings. Yeah. Okay. Forget the unit numbers of one, but think about like the value. So you can earn potentially within a 30-day period. Obviously, this is based on APY, so it's not like the whole year's worth. You're contributing 30 days of it. But this percentage here is a lot bigger than you would have with any of the traditional banks, that, especially in the UK, it might be different elsewhere, but usually it's like 0.5% or 1% these days. So you've got two options here. And the reason you've got flexible here, which is an earning one on Binance, some exchanges have them slightly differently worded or not this option at all. This means you can take it in and out as you please. 30 days duration doesn't mean that you have to have it in for 30 days. You could take it out for 50 days, but you might lose all or some of your staking rewards. But as I've mentioned, the only con really about staking is two elements really. One is you're locked into a period and you might miss an opportunity for selling in the exchange and trade. So you've got to take that into consideration. If you're happy for long term and you're happy in the back of your mind that if something goes mentally parabolic or something, you're just going to have to accept it and not be emotional about it or take it out. But if you do take it out, there's usually a condition of maybe 1 or 2 days before you get it back. And by that time, you might have missed the opportunity in the market. Okay, so bear that in mind. The other one as well is just purely around where you're putting your staking opportunity. So if you're using the exchange, what they're basically doing is they've got their own pool on the actual tokens network. Remember when I spoke earlier about mining pools and mining farms, a community or an option to choose or delegate where you want to put your assets. It's the same process with staking. So they basically got like staking farms, if you like, or staking pools, and you would go and choose a validator that you trust or based on the APY that you receive, which again we'll go on to in a second, to justify where you want it. So if you're using an exchange, you've got to understand that you're basically lending these guys your assets, and they've essentially taken the responsibility of that. Now, something can always go wrong in crypto these days, but using an exchange, I prefer not to necessarily do unless I can't find something on what's called like a native wallet. So going directly to a crypto assets blockchain or wallet to stake. So this is very flexible and opportunist to many people who use the exchange and can't be bothered to move it around all over the place. And you can find various staking percentage options. Some are like 30%, some could be 40%. Veracity, for example, which we did a video on recently, that's still I think 25-28%, which is absolutely fantastic. If you've got like a minimum of like say 10,000 VRA on there, you're earning something like 7 VRA a day, which is incredible. And obviously if one day if you've got that staking for a year or two, and then in 3 years time the price goes up to $1 or whatever, think how much you've accumulated at that time for free essentially. There's massive reward opportunities. So the great thing about crypto at the moment is so early, and that whole staking opportunity is a fantastic way not only to ensure that the blockchain stays secure and fantastic for everyone, but also rewards you. It's incredible. It's an absolutely incredible infrastructure and something to take advantage of before these percentages drop down in the future, as demand and users become increasingly on these pools and chains as well. So there are other ones like exchanges that do different things, as I mentioned with like Dot here, for example, staking on Qcoin. There's loads of different options, different assets. But I did mention as well about native wallets. So for example, Yuri is a fantastic network for Cardano ADA. Now I have mine on here and I use Cheeky Crypto, which is another awesome YouTube channel and one of the major influences behind why we started our channel as well. So the rewards are really quite good. Every 5 days is what's called an epoch. So it's basically a period of time where everything's all validated and then accumulating, verifying, and then rewarding everyone that's involved. So it's actually quite amazing. In fact, we'll go into that in a second. But here you can see I started back in epoch 253. So I can't remember exactly when that was, maybe just towards the beginning of the year. And you're getting rewards every day. Some days it's good, some days it's bad. It depends on the processing power and the amount of validations that are done by the pool. So in general, I'm happy with like 1 or maybe up to 2 ADA every 5 days. I'm not having to do anything. And if like I said, if ADA one day gets to that $100 price sometime, or even $50, I'm just getting free money here. You know what I mean? I don't know what 50 times however many we've got here, but that's quite a lot of money. So passive income one day in the future. And we're, in terms of that topic as well, what I mean by that is if some asset gets to a certain price, say like, let's say you've got like 5,000 ADA and then the price is like $100 and you've got staking, imagine how much each of these ones that provide money for you in a reward every day or every 5 days, that is passive income. It's additional income that you haven't even had to have to do anything about it. So it's really interesting on that aspect. But here, I'll just open this up. I hope Cheeky Crypto don't mind me pulling this in. But this is really cool. They've done a really good amount of work to their staking platforms. But you can essentially do loads of different things with those guys. And you can also see the epoch history as well in terms of transactions and things like that. And also the delegation list. So this is quite important as well. So if you're looking for a specific validator, you can do that, or you can go through the long list of ADA opportunities and pools. So they take fees without it, but you don't see that because that gets taken out before you get the rewards. So you don't need to worry about that. But there's sometimes minimum pledges, and that's the same for Binance and everything like this. You usually have to have a minimum of an asset before you do it. So it's really cool because you can decide, okay, well, this one's got quite a lot in the pool, so maybe the rewards won't be as big. Some of the fees adjusted and things like that. But you've also got things like ensuring that these guys are, so here you've got, like, for example, the estimated ROI, which is really cool. So that's a percentage that you might get from the total amount of validations that they do and everything. And bear in mind, you're sharing it with X amount of other people as well. I mean, it's quite incredible, really, because if you think about it, look all these different pools. 50.91 million at Cardano, almost in each and every one of these pools. And look how many there are. And this is just Cardano. It's incredible. Absolutely fantastic. But you've got to do a bit of research, so you can go into every single one of these and you can figure out whether you want to risk or put your staking into these. Have they been successful? Okay, how have they been with the minting? Are they, respectable in the Cardano validating arena? So I know I'm talking about Cardano, but it's exactly the same principle for all the others. And we will do individual staking, how to stake each individual asset of the top sort of 10 or whatever. Or basically, in fact, leave comments below what you want us to show staking wise, which assets you want us to cover. But key things to sort of think about is, okay, what's the amount that they're sort of rewarding over a period of time? You can chop and change your pools as well. So if you think one's not doing very well, you can move it across to another. How many delegators there are, how much ADA is in there, and what's the performance of the pool? Are they just some open up pools, take everyone's staking money, and then they don't do anything with it, and you're kind of like just wasting time and effort or opportunities to miss out on rewards and things like that. So just keep an eye on pool sizes, opportunities for reward, and everything like that. So that's kind of like how that essentially works. And to take your assets off exchanges to things like this, usually you have to use like ledger wallets. And as I said, we will do another video towards the end of this week to show you the opportunities, the different ways that you can transfer assets out of exchange safely and securely to native wallets such as this. And as I said, there's pros and cons to each one. Like for me, I'm a long term for Cardano. I'm not interested in trading it at all. I will accumulate it as and when corrections occur. And I'm happy for this thing to stay in there for 3-5 years. And it'll be absolutely fantastic to see how many rewards you are getting in that period of time. And you can keep adding to it as well. That's not a problem. And when you get your rewards, you can withdraw them and put them into your big pool as well, to keep accumulating more and more rewards as you go along. So that's kind of what happens. And when I mentioned about an exchange using a pool as a third party kind of thing, in Yuri and other ones, you will find probably a Binance pool, and they might have 2 or 3 of them because the amount of people that they've got on the exchange, and they want to accommodate as many people as they can. So they're basically essentially like an intermediary. Sometimes it works in their favor, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you can be phased by this and go, oh wow, 8%, that's bigger than the 5% that some of these are offering, but it's only lasting 30 days. And that 30 days might pass and they might not have another one for a while. Or they might do one, but you might miss out on it. So then actually, if you had this done for a month and you missed out on a month, essentially you're missing out on 50% of the opportunity. So actually your 8% will arguably become 4%, if that makes sense. Whereas with these, it's constant. You don't have to worry about it. It's 24/7, 5-day epochs, particularly with ADA. Some others are different. VeChain, I believe, is daily. Some other ones are daily, and some are even longer than that. Elrond, which I've got an Elrond wallet for eGold, I think that's every 10 days. I might be wrong there. It might be every 7 days. I can't remember. Maybe it's weekly, actually. So it's all about long-term efforts, strategies, short-term, whether you want to put them into things like this and potentially miss out on opportunities for trading and things like that. It's all variant. There are minimum staking requirements for each of them as well, so do look at that. Most of them aren't major. Like, for example, DOT, I think you can now do it with 1 DOT as a minimum. Some ask for, like, for example, Veracity asks for like 10,000 minimum. I mean, that sounds a lot, but actually, because of the price point, it's quite relatively simple to accumulate that kind of area without spending a lot of money. So all depends on your circumstance and what you're interested in staking and what you have done your research on and interested in to invest in for the short term and long term. So that's hopefully kind of given a top layer of what how staking has kind of come about and why and what's in it for you. So in a nutshell, really, it's all basically around validating and improving the networks that you're invested in. Okay, so it's quite an incredible ecosystem of improvement and consensus, but in reality, in return, you are being rewarded for lending your assets that you purchased and getting not only your assets back when you finished with the staking, but you're also getting the rewards for it. It's mad. No bank does that. And this is why crypto is fantastic, because it gives everyone the opportunity to accumulate some passive income. We all work hard, and it's fantastic to be able to get that additional opportunity to increase your funds. Go and use that passive income. Some people like to pay bills with it. Some people to buy a car, like things that you wouldn't have to use your own money for. Obviously, we'll do a conversation. I'm trying to get someone from a tax company to come and do an interview or video with us to provide some information around tax around crypto in general, but also if there's any implication on staking, we'll find out. But rewards are really important if you are short term or long term, and let the money do the work for you, as many people say in the sphere. So guys, hopefully you found this relatively informative. Please do leave any questions, extra questions you have in the comments below. Really do appreciate them. And anything we might have missed out on in this conversation, please do let us know and we will cover it in the next videos. Like I said, let us know as well what assets you want us to cover in terms of how to stake or what the staking opportunities are for those assets. And we will definitely 100% cover that, because it's a great opportunity and we want to share this information and make everyone rich. That's the whole point of it. Sharing is caring. So guys, I hope you found it informative. Please do like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.